Nuclear weapons changed everything about the presidency. Everything. And everything about the president himself became more important than ever before. American nuclear weapons empowered a single individual to start a world war in minutes, to order the annihilation of millions of people in minutes. And so character became a more prominent issue in presidential campaigning. Who is this person we're entrusting our lives to? Who is this person that the world is entrusting their lives to? This person who can fire off nuclear weapons around the world in minutes. That's one of the reasons the 25th Amendment was enacted in 1967, to clarify the line of succession in the presidency. In the nuclear age, we have to know who is in charge every minute. So when President George W. Bush had anesthesia during a colonoscopy, he signed over the powers of the presidency to Dick Cheney as acting president, something that was made possible only by the 25th Amendment. And as I explained last night, the 25th Amendment enables the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to vote to make the vice president acting president whenever they believe the president cannot carry out the duties of the office for whatever reason. In the nuclear age, the mental health of the president became infinitely more important than it ever was before. The 25th Amendment anticipates mental illness in the president that prevents the president from carrying out his duties. That's one of the reasons the vice president and the cabinet can remove the president and install the vice president as acting president. The first time psychiatrists stepped forward to say something about a presidential candidate was in the nuclear age, when Republican Barry Goldwater seemed all too eager to use nuclear weapons. 1964 presidential candidate. 1,189 psychiatrists co-signed an article saying that Barry Goldwater was psychologically unfit to be president. And after that, the American Psychiatric Association decided to institute a rule calling it unethical to offer professional opinions about someone without the professional examination of that person. That rule has been broken this year by a number of psychologists and psychiatrists who have decided that the more important rule to observe in the case of President Trump is the duty to warn. Mental health professionals have a duty to warn others when they see a danger presented to other people. They have a duty to violate patient confidentiality in cases like that. There are now more than 26,000 signatures on an online petition entitled "Mental Health Professionals Declare Trump is Mentally Ill and Must Be Removed." The petition cites the 25th Amendment as the proper procedure for removing a mentally ill president. The author of that petition will join us next.
Behind the walls of the Kremlin, they're preparing Vladimir Putin for a first meeting with America's president.
Everything is under preparation.
Compiling a dossier on Donald Trump's mental strengths and weaknesses.
Joining us now is John Gartner, the author of the online petition, "Mental Health Professionals Declare Trump is Mentally Ill and Must Be Removed." Also joining us, Lance Dodas, former professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. John Gartner, there we have the Russians doing a version of the work that you're doing, apparently compiling a psychological dossier to present to Vladimir Putin on Donald Trump. Governments do this all the time within their intelligence community. They employ psychology professionals to do exactly that within the intelligence community. You're doing a version of this publicly, and you're doing it, as I said, in violation of this long-standing rule since 1964 presidential campaign that you're not supposed to diagnose people publicly who you have not seen privately, and you're never supposed to share any of the diagnosis that you've made privately. Why have you come to this point?
Because of exactly what you mentioned, this duty to warn. If we could construct a psychiatric Frankenstein monster, we could not create a leader more dangerously mentally ill than Donald Trump. He's a paranoid, psychopathic narcissist who's divorced from reality and lashes out impulsively at his imagined enemies. And this is someone, as you mentioned, who's handling the nuclear codes. You know, this Goldwater rule is frankly absurd from three different vantage points. First, the debacle that took place during Goldwater's era was in the Freudian time, before we had the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. The great advance of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual is it gave us clear behavioral diagnostic criteria for every disorder. So whereas these psychiatrists were saying he had potty training issues and latent homosexuality issues, there were unproved concepts, we now know if we can observe someone's behavior and their words, we know that we can diagnose them. And actually, this whole idea that the psychiatric interview is the gold standard for making an assessment is just frankly not true. Empirical research shows that the psychiatric interview is one of the least reliable ways of forming a diagnosis, that behavior and informants, and obviously we have thousands of hours of behavior and informants, are much more accurate. And finally, as far as ethics go, I would argue to my colleagues that those who don't speak out are being unethical, that if we have some knowledge and understanding about the unique danger that Donald Trump presents through our psychiatric training and we don't say something about it, history is not going to judge us kindly.
Dr. Dotis, I'd like to show you some video of Donald Trump, because everything we're talking about is based on what you've been able to see him do publicly on video. And there was a moment that for me was the, pardon the expression from an amateur, but the sickest moment of Donald Trump's lying history. It was in a South Carolina debate when he said he lost hundreds of friends on 9/11. Now, let's just look at this.
How did he keep us safe when the World Trade Center came down? The world, excuse me, I lost hundreds of friends.
Okay, now here's the truth. It was not hundreds. The next day, 12 hours later on Meet the Press, he reduced the hundreds to he lost many, many friends. The truth is he lost zero. Donald Trump did not attend a single 9/11 funeral. He stands there in front of the debate audience, says he lost hundreds of friends of 9/11. The truth is he lost zero. He lost nothing. He suffered nothing on 9/11. What do you call that? What did we just see?
Well, it's lying, but there are two pieces to it, I think. One is that he lies because of his sociopathic tendencies that Dr. Gartner was talking about, that he lies in the way anybody who scams people does, that he's trying to sell an idea or a product by telling you something that's untrue. There's that lying. There's also the kind of lying he has that is, in a way, more serious, that he has a loose grip on reality. We can say that because he lies about things which aren't even that important to him, like the Electoral College majority, and he's been told that it's not true, but he keeps doing it. I think what that indicates is that he can't stand an aspect of reality that he doesn't want, so he rejects it. His grasp of reality and his attention to reality is loose, an extremely dangerous trait in a president. Actually makes him unqualified.
And John Gartner, I mean, certainly there are people who we could find who exhibit more overt mental illness but they could never actually get themselves up onto a debate stage and put sentences together. It seems to me that your point is within the realm of people who could possibly win a major party nomination and then go on to win the presidency. Exactly. This, you're saying, is as sick mentally as you can get.
Right. This is literally the worst case scenario, because you're right, if he was a paranoid schizophrenic and he was wearing a tinfoil hat, then he wouldn't be elected president. But he's just sane enough, as it were, to pass, but actually detached from reality, as Dr. Dotis said, so that what is real is fluid. It's totally malleable according to his personality disorder. And so you have someone handling the nuclear codes who's not in touch with reality and who's paranoid, who actually imagines that he's under attack by people who are not actually attacking him. Then what you have is a very dangerous combination of someone who can act on his paranoid fantasies in a way that can have catastrophic consequences.
I wish we had more time for this discussion. I'm sure we're going to come back to it another night. I really appreciate you joining us on this. Lance Dotis and John Gartner, thank you both very much for joining us tonight.